Welcome to the Grand Balance, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by two working grandmas navigating the beautiful chaos of work and family. Hi, Angela. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. Just got back from another trip to Houston. I usually go once a month, but this month was a little different because I went over the long weekend earlier in the month to celebrate the oldest granddaughter's second birthday. And then after that was all booked, my son-in-law had an opportunity to go golf with my son and my brother-in-law down south, and he truly is the epitome of a super dad, so he first said no, he couldn't because of the 2 little girls being home and all the work. He didn't wanna put that on my daughter. But I said, "What if I come out? Would you wanna go?" And he was like, "Well, let me talk to my daughter," well, his wife, my daughter, "and see if she'd be up for it." And it all worked out, so it was a win-win. I got to see the little girlies and my daughter, and he got to take a little break and do some golfing and some guy time, so it was all good. But I'll tell you, I told my daughter, "I need to go home, back to work to get some rest." You forget how crazy the toddler and baby lifestyle, well, you don't forget because 'cause you're around it, but I had forgotten.
Yeah, I am exhausted after watching the kids. I can work 12, 14-hour days, no problem. But if I am watching the 2 kids, by the time I get home and I lay on the couch to watch, something after dinner, I'm done. I go to sleep. It's so exhausting because you're on high alert the whole day.
Yeah, I think you're just mentally stimulated, and then I got up with the toddler because my daughter is still feeding round the clock and has baby in her room, so I got up every day with the toddler, which is at 7 a.m., but 5 a.m. our time, so that already kinda starts me in a deficit because with the 2-hour time change, it's hard to go to sleep early. Well, it's always hard for me to go to sleep early at night anyway.
Yeah, you're definitely a late person.
Yeah, I work late and then I have to do all the catch up and preparation for the next day, so I'm not generally up at 5 a.m., I'll just tell you that, but such a fun age, they just change so quickly, and I feel so grateful that I'm able to see so much of their changing and developing up close because we do FaceTime almost every day, but it's different than actually being there for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm so glad you have that flexibility too. And you've got your career and you're able to still be that flexible. I think that's amazing. Good for you, Sharon. Good grandma.
Yeah, well, I wanna talk to the airlines. I don't like all this fuel surcharging and because the fares have gone up so much, but hopefully that's a s
Temporary.
temporary, exactly, temporary thing, and we can go back to normal prices.
Yeah. Yep. So I know we were supposed to have a special guest this week, but because we're working grandmas, I got called out of town. So we had to postpone. So we're going to talk a little bit about something else today. You know how I
Well, we're still
was,
doing the guests, though.
we will. Yes.
Yeah, it's just
It's coming up.
it'll be the next episode, so I'm really looking forward to that. So, we haven't shelved it by any means, we just had to delay it a little bit, and hopefully the next episode will be our fabulous guest.
Yes, it will be. So far, unless I get called out of town again. But so far,
Fingers
so good.
crossed.
But you know how I told you for Lent, I gave up cursing.
Yeah, how's that going?
I'm getting
Well,
better. I'm having like little couple day streaks of no cursing. So
well,
that's
good.
good. I'm getting better.
It's such a
But
funny thing because I don't really hear you curse often, so it's a funny for me to imagine that you do it a lot, but
well, you probably don't see me in my frustrated state. So,
just the fun podcasting times.
yeah, yeah. But it made me think because the reason I did that for Lent was because my grandson was copying me. And so I gave it up for Lent because I thought, okay, I am a bad influence on him. And so it made me start thinking, well, what are the other things that grandparents do that they pick up? And it's a lot, obviously. So kids do pick up so many things. So I thought we could talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, it all goes back to the old adage, actions speak louder than words. So they are probably more likely to copy what they see rather than what they hear. Although in your case, it's a little bit of both. But generally, I feel like that is a very true statement.
Yeah. So we have a lot of influence, as do the parents, but as grandparents, especially those like we are that are so highly engaged with the grandkids, I think we just have so much influence. I thought we could talk about that today. Fun topic. and
Yeah,
educational too.
for sure, because it's things you don't normally think about. I was thinking the other day about how when kids get to a certain point, there's so much outside influence thrown at them that I think it is important to establish really good boundaries and ways to communicate prior to, like, going to school at 5, because when they're younger, we can choose the preschool or the daycare, and hopefully we have a really good handle on what's being done there, but there's so much outside influence on kids when we're not there, and it's really kinda scary. Because think about it, if, for instance, a child is in daycare during the working days, that's a long stretch of time that someone else is giving influence.
Well, and you say like 5, I mean, but you're right, like in daycare, that's when they're learning how to speak and all of that. But just the little things that they might pick up if their daycare provider is negative, if
Or yeah,
they
you're right, or
react
just
terribly.
habits.
Yeah, those habits of like, I mean, of course, they're probably not cursing like I'm trying to give up, but just having like tones in your voice or being just a negative person or an impatient person and things like that, that could all be happening.
But fortunately, when young kids are in those environments, we do have the liberty of choosing and picking. Once they go to school, they're assigned to a teacher, and that's why I think maybe something to think about is the importance of establishing good habits and connections and so forth prior to that, because at that point, you don't have much say. Of course, if it was a really negative situation, you could request that your child be moved, but by and large, our kids are set with teachers and we go on our merry way.
Yeah, because the teachers for sure have so much influence, especially as they're learning to talk, as they're learning to manage their emotions and all of that. So,
There's so many good teachers out there. That's the beauty of it. There's a few bad eggs that cause negativity around it, but there's so many sacrificing great, amazing teachers. So
oh,
hats
absolutely. I mean, we're feeling it, right? We know how hard it is every day, and we only have 1 or 2. They have many more that they're
yeah.
managing
I
and,
have so many
trying
teacher
to.
friends too, and just the stuff they're faced with on the day to day. I hats off to all those teachers doing it for all the right reasons.
That's
It's
right. Even today, we'll ask my grandson's teacher is Miss Patty, and he'll do something, and which we'll say, "Well, did Miss Patty teach you that?" And he'll say, "Yes." And she's really good. He's learning so many really good ways to, like, manage his emotions and stuff like that, and it's all from her.
I know there's definitely, I mean, the negative can be very damaging, but at the same time, like you're saying, the positive and just another influence of the right influence can be such a positive influence.
That's right. So they say toddlers imitate up to 70% of behaviors they observe from familiar adults. So that's why it's so important as grandparents that we practice what we preach. We can't just be saying, don't smoke, don't curse, don't lie, don't beat up kids, don't push. We have to practice it and show them
Right.
through
Well,
our
and even in
behaviors.
everyday life, like when you're dealing with wait staff or flight attendants or whatever, being polite and leading with kindness can go such a long ways because kids pick up on that too.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that's another important factor is just think about if you go through life and treat people how you would want to be treated or how you would want people to treat your grandkids for that matter.
Yeah. What I loved about when I was looking at these studies of, things to watch out for, what they imitate, all of that, it said that children who have strong relationships with grandparents tend to show stronger emotional security, better social behavior, and stronger family identity. And it just reinforced like why it's so important to have deep relationships with your grandkids.
Besides the
Besides being selfish because we
Right.
want
I
to.
was gonna say, besides all the fun and love that you get, there are definite benefits. It's funny because my daughter sends me memes or Instagram posts all the time about how beneficial grandmas are and little jokes. In fact, she just sent me one today. It was, I don't remember if you remember Family Circle, the old
Yeah.
comic.
Yeah.
She sent me one of those and it's so cute. It's the dad saying, "What's the magic word to get what you want?" And the kid says, "Grandma."
That's so true.
I said, "Yes, I fully agree with that." It made me laugh.
Yeah. So so they copy signature phrases. Has your granddaughter yet start copying anything that you say? I know she's still young.
Yeah, sure, her speaking is getting better for sure, but and she'll copy things, but it's just, like, super funny things, like, if you ask her questions, it's like, "Yep." She'll say that, which clearly she hears from either her mom or me. So
Right.
cute little things like that, but she doesn't really speak in full sentences yet.
So actually the yep, my grandson was saying, "Yeah, yeah." Like, so because his dad says, "Yeah," and I think his mom says, "Yeah." And so I say, "Yes." And then the other day, they even actually said, "He's been saying yes. Is that because of you?" And I said, "Yes." So so they said they like it. I was like, "I don't he doesn't need to be learning slang it too. He should be learning proper language."
Oh, that's
So
funny.
he's starting to say yes now, which I thought, "Okay, check on the grandma, board here that I'm teaching him proper English."
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's just so funny to watch. I mean, you hear it all the time how kids model, but even last weekend, my daughter's room is downstairs, and so she has a rocker in her room. So my little 2-year-old granddaughter runs in there, jumps on the rocker, grabs a breastfeeding pillow, grabs her baby, pulls up her shirt, and I was like, "Oh my, okay."
that's cute.
Trying to be like mama.
Yeah. So they pick up signature phrases. One, I know it was a while ago when my grandson first started learning to talk. He's pretty verbal, and I was starting to teach him his ABCs fairly early. And he would get the first few, or, he'd try to get through it. And then when he's done, I'd say, "Yeah, baby," like just excited for him. So then all of a sudden, anytime he'd do something exciting, he'd say, "Yeah, baby." So I thought it
Oh,
was so cute.
that is so cute.
Yeah. So that's the positive stuff. Then they pick up, the bad stuff as well. So to your point earlier, if somebody's aggressive to the dog or, to other people and they're impatient, they're going to pick that up. And that's really negative. And so we have to be careful. And let's face it, as grandparents get older, it's proven that elderly people start losing their patience. They're not as tolerant of things, and that can show. So we have to be really careful as grandparents to not lose our, attention to that role modeling that we're needing to do.
Oh, 100%. I remember as my mom was aging, she did have Alzheimer's, which didn't help, but just her, like, going out to restaurants, she didn't really I don't know how to say it, like, she would not filter. She would
That's
just
right. They
say
lose their
things,
filter.
and I would be like, my eyeballs would almost pop out, be like, try to correct it and soften the blow because you don't want wait people to hopefully, they realize she was just older and not in her complete right mind, but it's the worst.
Right. You don't want your grandkids to pick up your crotchety behavior.
No, you absolutely I mean, the opposite. I feel like kids and grandkids teach you patience rather than the opposite, so we gotta keep that in mind too, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just those little things. The one that they said they pick up a lot are phone habits. And this is I know we've talked about this a lot, being on the phone and the addiction to the phone and all of that. But as parents and grandparents, if we're sitting on our iPad or our phone all day long, they're going to want to do the same thing.
Oh, that's what I've noticed this past weekend. I didn't look at my phone because if I would even glance at my phone, she would wanna hold it, she would wanna look at it, so I just put it down and pretty much ignored it all her waking hours.
Yeah,
Because that's the only way you can really do it, otherwise, they're so intrigued with the phone. I thought you meant, like, how you speak on the phone at
they
first.
do. That
I mean, I'm
too.
sure,
That too.
but I hadn't thought about the other actual
I have a question.
Mhm.
When you know somebody, everybody has like caller ID now for the most part. Like on your phone, it's your son calling or it's your daughter calling or whatever. Do you still say hello?
I do generally, yes.
I do too. And I'm getting teased for it.
Oh, really?
I'm like, "Hello?" And they're like, "It's mom, why do you have to say hello? You know it's me." I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to say? What do you want?" What do you know? Like, what's the proper way if you don't say hello?
I don't know, I feel like both of my kids say hello as well.
Or is it just, do you call them out like, "Hey, son. Hey, mom. Hey, dad."
I don't know, it's never really come up,
I know. What is the new
but
etiquette?
that's funny because, yeah, clearly we all know who's calling us if we're answering,
That's right. I mean,
generally.
unless it's yeah, I guess if it's from a company or something, but,
Yeah,
um
that's a good question, I don't know the answer to it, but I definitely probably 90% of the time say hello.
now did you have time with your grandparents? Did you recall picking up anything from them that has carried over?
Well, my grandparents pretty much raised us. My mom was a working single mom, so we were with my grandparents all the time, very, very, very close to my grandparents. I don't know, I don't really remember at that age, like, modeling specific behavior attributed to them or my mom, so I can't tell you about that.
Hmm. Was there anything that you knew kinda your grandparents influenced the way you are now, even if it's not a specific behavior?
Well, I just remember my grandparents were definitely our safety net and very secure, very, very stable. So, for instance, when I was in 3rd grade, we had to change schools, and I was really upset. My sister was in 2nd grade. I don't think it really hit her as hard because she was younger. I was very upset. We were going from private school to public school, and we had moved specifically for public school district. And I was, like I said, not wanting to do it. I already had friends. And so I went to my grandma so upset. And she said, try it for a year. And if you don't like it, if you're miserable, I'll pay for you to go back to the other school. And just knowing that, I assimilated fine. I loved it. Everything was good. It was obviously a very good school. But just knowing that just made the whole transition so much easier. And I think of many examples, not even financial ones, but just knowing that they were there for us and their goal was to make sure we were happy.
I love that.
S So, yeah, all my friends in high school and college knew my grandparents. It was just a really, really special relationship, and they were neither of them were in great health. So my grandma passed away right before I got married, and my grandfather passed away right after I got married.
Mm,
So all of my impressionable years, I would say they were there.
that's that's wonderful.
Were you close to your grandparents?
Yes, very close. In fact, they say grandparents can reduce kids' stress, so your story is perfect because even though you were under a lot of stress and you were so upset, they were able to bring it down a level,
And find
sounds
a
like.
solution, I feel like,
Yeah,
because I feel like my mom did the same for my kids, especially she was especially close to my daughter,
yeah.
and I think which I laugh, in fact, you're probably seeing the same thing, but it's no surprise that the grandparents are very close to the oldest because that's your job when the second one comes, is playing with the older one, and I thought about you a lot this weekend, protecting the baby from the toddler.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, have you had experience with that yet?
I have just because, they're so loving, but, the little baby can't take the weight of a toddler on top of them,
Yes.
and the kisses are pretty aggressive, and I'm like, "Okay, that's so sweet, but we need to be nice."
Yeah, you'll start noticing more, I'm sure. They
Yes,
also say kids sometimes confide in grandparents more than parents, and I was pretty close with my grandma, and I did find this with myself that I actually more much later in life, dealing with adult problems, she was kind of a sounding board to me.
oh, that's so nice.
And I don't know why, because I'm really close with my parents too, but she seemed like a really safe place for me. And I remember just having one conversation with her. I was going through a rough time. This was 15 years ago maybe, so I was in my, early 40s, I suppose. And so had my kids, had a family and everything, and I talked to her about it. And I think it's because they say kids feel like grandparents are often perceived as less judgmental.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I feel like parents and grandparents in general love you unconditionally, but parents can still have that judgment where no matter what you do, grandma and grandpa are gonna be in your court.
Yeah. And my mom one day said to me, "Be careful what you say to me about your husband because you're gonna forgive him probably, but we'll always remember." And I thought, "You're right," but then maybe that's why I felt safer with my grandma. I'm not sure, but
That makes sense, though.
it does make sense. Like, we know we're in this marriage, but externally, when they're like, "Hey, you're not respecting my daughter," or "You're not doing this for my daughter," they're gonna kinda hold a grudge a little.
Right. No, I can see that 100%.
So and I don't know if grandparents just have more life experience or they're one step removed, from the situation, so they can be less judgmental, but I just thought that was interesting. Just more ways that we can contribute to raising our grandkids, whether they're little ones all the way through adulthood, being there for them. The other thing is grandparents help build family identity, and I think it's because they tell all the stories.
And a lot like, I even think about, like, we just passed Valentine's Day, and we do the whole tradition of sending Valentines and hiding your name on the Valentines. That was started by my grandmother. So when my daughter asked me, "How did that even start?" I, explained to her how my grandmother started it, which was her great-grandmother, and it continues. I mean, this year, my kids did it and participated, and I'm sure as their kids get older, their kids will do it. So it's
Right,
a great
right.
example of how traditions get passed down, and it all starts from all the grandparents that came before us.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, I don't know about your family. Well, it sounds like your kids knew their grandparents, but just having elders around, it does help kids grow and, be better at showing kindness, treating people, how they treat people, how they react to frustration, how they show kindness. They do a better job when they have exposure to elderly people, grandparents, and bigger, extended families.
Yeah, that makes sense because I even think about as my mom aged, she had some mobility issues, and even my little 8, 9-year-old son knew he needed to jump up and help, give an arm to grandma,
Right.
which normally that may not have come up with a lot of 8, 9, 10-year-olds.
Yeah. So they develop more of a positive attitude about aging because they've seen it as they grew up. They understand it
And they're connected with it.
and they're connected. So interesting. And then what another finding in these studies was that children who know the family stories. So when we talk about how grandparents tell all the family stories, show all the old pictures, stuff like that, kids have higher resilience and self-esteem
I w
when they have,
I was just reading about
which is
that too.
interesting.
I
Like,
thought I had never made that connection. It also, in what I was reading, was saying that when kids see consistent positive behavior, it creates a secure environment, which creates self-esteem. So it's funny how all these little factors can play into molding and shaping a kid's identity and self-esteem, which even puts our job at more importance of how we're showing up.
yeah, yeah. We really need to focus on being amazing role models and catching ourselves, even with our little behaviors. Like if we eye roll or if we sigh, like, "Ugh, I'm so frustrated." They're gonna pick up on stuff like that.
They
Just the
are, but at
littlest
the
thing.
same time, I feel like if you sigh and then figure out a way to solve it, you're also demonstrating problem solving and how you go about things, or if you make a mistake, how you are resilient and you figure it out in a compassionate way. They also see all that too.
Right,
So I think that's important, especially kids watching how parents and grandparents handle failure.
right. It's so funny, my husband, he started doing this with my grandson, and now he's doing it with my granddaughter. He'll hold them and say, "Besito," in the little girl's name, and then he'll give me a besito, like a little kiss, and he'll say, "See, besito, grandma," and then besito, you, and then you give grandma a besito. So he's like trying to teach her how to kiss and be,
Oh,
kind and all of that. And we in our family, it's very big traditional where when you walk into greet people, you give them a hug and a kiss, and before you leave, you give them a hug and a kiss. You don't just leave. So for them now, they know when it's time to leave, they run up to give us a kiss goodbye, and if they don't, that's not good. They get in trouble. No, they don't get in trouble. They're just reminded. that's
Yeah,
what we do.
that's
So
very
those are the
cultural,
traditions
I would say, because my in-laws were like that as well.
that they kissed when they got there and back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you didn't forget it, like, you had to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of those traditions and cultural things.
Correct, yeah, for sure, I think it's a cultural thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so importance that we practice what we preach, that we make sure all these little kids are watching, and they're watching not only just our behaviors, but they're watching that grandpa's cooks, so these stereotypes aren't, embedded in them and stuff. Everybody can cook, everybody contributes. So just, trying to continue to reinforce those messages as well.
Yes, and always remind ourselves and keep reminding ourselves that it's such a blessing that we can be in our grandkids' lives, because a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and I feel like it's such a fun time, even though we're balancing so many different things. It's just it kinda reminds you of what it's like to have little kids around, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was visiting my aunt and uncle a couple days ago. They watch my little cousin, and I went over there so I could have a little play date with my grandson and his little cousin, and they just had a 50th wedding anniversary celebration. And she said, "I was so glad that all the kids were there," because a lot of times it's kind of expensive to have big parties with every big families. So a lot of times it's adults only and stuff. She said, "No, no, no, no. This is what made my night. Having all the little kids running around and
Oh,
my grandkids and their cousins and everything." And it is just such a blessing especially I think as we get older, we realize it much more.
yeah, for sure. It's a fun time, different. It's like all the different life stages you go through. This is definitely one of the funner ones,
Yep.
for sure. Well, I do have a fabulous find. Are you tearing up? I was like, "Angela, I've never seen you emotional."
No, I was holding in a sneeze. Go
Oh.
ahead.
Well, this is kind of along the lines of trying to save money. I My son told me about this, and now I have turned my sister and son-in-law and many people onto it, but it's from Blue Bottle. It's a cold brew bottle, and it's amazing, and it's fast, and it takes 2 seconds of your time to make, but the cold brew comes out better than Starbucks.
Really?
So,
So it saves money because 'cause you're not going to Starbucks.
yeah, that was my
Okay.
point, and it's option that you can do at home. But it is really, really good and really easy, and it's just a little thing where you pour the coffee in a little type of filter thing, you stick it on the bottle top, fill it with water, stick it in your fridge, and in the morning, it's ready.
Oh, that would be a good gift for somebody.
Yeah, I got it from my sister because I think if I would have told her, she would have been like, "Yeah," she would have never purchased it or used it, but I purchased it for her. She says she uses it every day now, hardly even uses the hot coffee.
Probably need to get that for my son-in-law because he makes his own every morning, but
Yeah,
oh, that looks cool.
I'll send you the link so you can add it, but it's one of those finds that I wouldn't have normally purchased, and my son had told me about it, and it's completely changed how I do my morning routine. I just do a little bit of coffee and mix it with a protein shake because I'm not a big coffee drinker, but the coffee tastes so much better than it does from my Nespresso or back when I used to have a K-Cup brewer. The coffee just tastes, I don't know, less bitter, much better.
That's awesome.
So we will include that.
Hey, I'm not a coffee drinker, but for those that are, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it was a great find.
Good. All right. So next time, unless I get called out of town again, we will have our guest who is a grandma as well, and we're excited to hear her story.
Yes, I am very excited too. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so we can continue to grow our community. Also follow us on Instagram at Working Grandmas Podcast, on Facebook at The Grand Balance, a Working Grandmas Podcast, and join our LinkedIn group, Working Grandmas. You can also email us at info@workinggrandmas.com or message us through any of our social media platforms.